Hey brothers, what's going on? JK, your brother in the struggle here, on my way to the gym, which is a little bit different. Black on black, funeral for my fat. That's the reason why. It's one of those days, cardio days, solemn day. All right, and it's gonna be a brutal workout. Hope you guys have gotten your workout in. Today I want to talk about something that happened in one of my groups. I'm gonna post this in the group, but I'm also gonna post this, my brothers, on Facebook as well. But I recently put up a post that talked about the importance of putting aside your ego and asking for help. That's sometimes one of the most powerful things you can do. Something that will release a lot of pressure that you're under and shame that you're under is just posting and saying, hey, I'm having a hard time right now. I'm having a hard time in my reboot, right? That's all you need to say. And you'll get the support, of course, if you're in the right support group, right? I was specifically speaking to brothers in our group. What I did not anticipate was that, and some guys did it in the right way, but I did not anticipate that some brothers would misunderstand it. And there's some brothers who have learned helplessness, right? You take on a task and it's challenging, so you're helpless. Oh, I can't help myself. I can't do this. I'm always struggling. I must be doing it wrong. I do everything. I can't do it. Sometimes you were raised like that, right? You were raised by parents who bailed you out every time you had problems for whatever reason. And so you become this adult who just always needs help. And I know this because I used to be that kind of guy myself. I used to be that kind of guy who, I'm ashamed to say it, but my mom would bail me out from a lot of shit when I was younger. Just everything. Like when I was struggling, just little things. I wouldn't have money for gas. She would send me $20. I would ask her for a certain amount of money and she would send me a little bit more. And I was dependent on her kindness when I was, in my late teens. And even though we were not from modest means, we were from poor means, we were from broke means, we had nothing, I was just helpless. I couldn't do things on my own. That literally spilled into other areas of my life. And, sometimes I would try to make some friends, and my good friends, I remember one of my good friends, Max, telling me once when I was complaining about a woman, I was like, oh, it's so hard to this situation is happening, and I was talking to her and it didn't work out, or somebody flaked on a date, and I would just whine about how challenging and how difficult it was. And he just told me, dude, why are you complaining about this, man? Why don't you just figure it out? And that was probably one of the best things he could tell me. And I was like, okay, maybe I do whine and bitch a lot. And my point is, gentlemen, that some of you do need to put your ego aside and ask for help, but you don't need to ask for it helplessly. You need to demonstrate that you're trying to do something, right? And there's a difference between saying, I have a hard time and I've been trying to figure things out, and actually saying that I'm helpless, guys. I can't figure it out. I'm hopeless. I know we sometimes end up in that place where we feel that we don't know what we're doing. We feel that the system, for those of you following the system and watching this in the group, that you haven't figured out the system or you're not implementing something. I want you to know that there are tools. This is going on our 10th year right now. We've covered everything. We literally have tools for you to go back to, you've got the relapse prevention checklist, right? To figure out why you're relapsing and to figure out if you're headed for a relapse. We have a win wall for you to appreciate the progress that you've made. Oftentimes you find yourself stuck in a place where you feel like you've plateaued and you're like, yeah, I used to slip every day, but now I'm slipping every 2 weeks. And this has been going on for almost 2 months. But you fail to realize, or you forget, that it takes 1.5 to 2 years for your brain to rewire, and that it takes, within our program, about 90 days for you to just learn how to control your behavior. Sometimes all you need to do is to be reminded of that. And all that's usually involved in that is just kind of going back to the basic philosophies of our program. What are some of the basic philosophies? That your future is bigger than your past. When you start worrying about, oh man, I'm gonna fall back, I'm gonna fail, all the things I did in the past are like, I'm still that guy. And you start getting stuck in that place. You can literally look into your future when you hold that philosophy and you repeat it to yourself and realize, okay, like there's so much hope. You know, when I joined this program, one of the things I did was I looked into my future. I quit looking at my past, because if I kept looking at my past, I would never join the program. I would take my values from the past and my experiences from the past and project it onto myself in the present. I would say, well, I'm a guy who doesn't finish things. I'm a guy who quits. You know, I'm a guy who's tried different things and they don't work. I'm a guy who doesn't have discipline. And so you realize that, hey, I can be better in the future. Look at me now. I used to slip every day. Now I slip every 2 weeks. That leads to another philosophy. What's another philosophy? That slips are data. They are not something for you to get emotional about. First of all, of course, you have to understand that something has happened to you biologically. Your brain has rewired, right? You have a preference to pornography and certain sorts of material that stimulate you. High-speed internet pornography, in this case specifically. So you understand that. But you also have to understand that when you get emotional about it, your emotions are just neurochemicals. So when you get upset or you get sad about your slip, you're releasing more neurochemicals and you're making the response more complex. So when you understand that slips are data, then you can get rational, logical about the slip. You can look at it in a dispassionate way and understand why it happened, right? And then deal with it. You have the right coping strategy. You know which tool to apply to that. Leads to another philosophy. What is that philosophy? Work with your brain. Don't work against it. When you find yourself being stuck in a certain area, you're like, oh man, I can't figure this out. I've been experiencing very strong urges for many days. Whatever, I'm emotional about something in my life. I don't have much hope in my ability to end this behavior. I'm stuck in a negative loop or a lot of negative self-talk. And then you try to bust through it with willpower, right? You're like, I'm gonna power through this. I'm gonna power through these strong urges. I'm gonna power through the negativity. It rarely works, right? It might work sometimes, but you have to understand that your willpower is finite. All right, so you understand, like, okay, cool, like I'm working against my brain, and working against my brain just doesn't work. I have to work with my brain. I have to accept that there are certain things that are happening to me right now that I have to be okay with, right? Sometimes you have to accept the fact that you are negative, that, you know, you're in your gloomy, or whatever the fuck it's called. I don't know where I picked up that phrase from, right? But sometimes you've just got to accept that. You're like, okay, I'm negative right now. I feel bad right now. I have very strong urges right now. So instead of fighting these very strong urges, for instance, you just observe them. You have a conversation with that part of you that's telling you, that little voice that's telling you that the urges are so strong. It's been 2 days. The part of you that's intellectualizing that, oh, you know, it'll say some stupid stuff that you're a young man, you've got a high sex drive, and you're not sexually active with anybody, so you've got to release. You know, you've got to release a little bit. Or you'll find something like, oh, you know, prostate cancer. I heard that you have to masturbate so you don't get prostate cancer. Something stupid that is posing as something intellectual from one study. Then it's propagated everywhere by people who are trying to use it as an excuse to slip. All the rationalizing. So when all that stuff comes up, you disengage your emotions from it and you just observe your brain doing these things. The way to work with your brain is to accept what your brain is doing and observe it without releasing any neurochemicals. That's it. And when you observe it and you understand it rationally, guess what? It passes. That's it. It passes. You understand what is literally what is going on. You're like, okay, I see what is happening. So I feel like I'm getting into the rambling stage of this video, so I'll stop there. My point is this. Those are not all the philosophies. This isn't what the video is about. It's just an observation of something I saw in the group. The system works. So many men have been through it. You have all the tools if you're in the group. Those of you who are watching this on YouTube, the philosophies are shared throughout the videos. The entire system is literally on this channel. And if you know that you have learned helplessness, just become aware of it, right? I know it's a very challenging thing to be aware of, because you're like, well, I'm stuck between my ego and JK when I'm too proud and I don't want to seem like the needy guy asking for help, and I actually share. It feels like I'm going to this extreme where I'm oversharing and I'm being completely helpless. Like, what is the balance? Well, I'm telling you what the balance is here, right? You know, like, let us know what you've done. Let us know the work that you've done, and resist the urge to completely just throw out all your emotions there. One of the differences between type B men and type A men, we have a lot of type A men in the intensive. We have some type A men in the implementation program, but a lot of type B men. I talk about this in a different video, but the type A men in general are a lot more confident, have often dealt with some of their other issues, and they just have this one problem with their compulsive sexual behavior that they want to take care of. So if you're a type B man who's struggling with that, learned helplessness is something you want to look up. There are a lot of other experts who have spoken about that and can help you with it. But that's my point for today. I'm close to my gym. I'm JK, your brother in this struggle. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll speak to you guys later.